Hi, it's Leo from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. So today we're going to be painting wicker. People shy away from wicker. Wicker is one that people feel, I think, is a little bit notorious, difficult. It's kind of difficult to work with, difficult to paint. Is it difficult to decoupage? No, it's not. Follow along while I apply our 2023 new summer release Made by Marley decoupage paper called Indian Garden onto wicker. Okay, so this is today's piece. It's bamboo. It's got rattan or wicker, whatever you want to call it, on it. Yes, you can paint these kind of things. The only problem is going to need a clamp up in here because there's a little bit of bamboo loose. And down here, what they've tried to do is, if I just do this and I kind of tip it forward, I can show you. They've put these runners on the bottom, obviously to give it a little bit more height, which is fine because I actually think it could do with a little bit more height. But they've put one this width and one this width, which means when you put it down on its feet, there's a small square there and a much larger piece there. So Martin's going to go away and take those off. I'm sorry, and do it right. So we'll get that done, and we'll have those removed. We'll get it cleaned, and maybe we'll get a little bit more height on it, maybe what I'm looking for. It's quite blocky, so maybe just some blocks, I don't know. So we'll go and fix these things, and we'll be right back. Okay, so this took a turn. I went from I didn't like the bit of wood to Martin, can you do this? What we had was we had some old coffee table legs, and Martin has structurally, I mean, these are sound, I know my floor's wobbly, but these are not ever coming off. They've been glued and screwed and pieces have been taken out so Martin could fit them in. It was a little bit of a thing, but anyway, he's done that and he's made me some lovely long tall legs for it, which I think right now looks a little bit like Frankenstein's monster, but as soon as you get paint on, you're going to start pulling it together. Now, what we're going to do today with this wicker, first of all, we're going to do a dusty, bluey grey sort of blend, and I'll show you why, because today I'm going to be using one of my brand new summer release papers, which is called Indian Garden. I will show you it. It is this. It has 2 sheets of the florals and one of the peacock, and so that's the 2 florals, one of the peacock, and we're going to be trying to get this sort of dusty sort of blue color. First of all, we're just going to kind of focus on putting that blend together. Then we're going to be adding some greens to the blend, and then now, can you decoupage wicker? Yes, you can, but you wouldn't do it ripping it out and having an edge and then blending up to it. I don't think I would do that way. I think if I was going to do this decoupage, I would do it traditionally, which is cut it out meticulously and then we'll stick it on. But we'll get to the sort of fun parts near the end. Right now, we just have to set up for the painting. So I've got various colours over here, all the sort of blues, but I'm going to be starting with Annie Sloane's Oxford Navy. So let's get some of that there. I've got some olive, which will maybe going to give us a dusty sort ofness. I'm just going to put a little tad of this green there and a little bit of this here. That's Antibes green, Florence. This is Napoleonic blue, and I don't think I need yellow right now, but I will put some of this Amsterdam green. Right, these are our sort of colours. You're going to need a blending brush. I am not going to be doing the cleaning my brush throughout, but you will need a cloth to kind of offload some of your paint. So I'm going to go dark near the edges first, and I'm just going to go over the wide parts of the bamboo, and I'm going to do it with the drawers in, and then once I finish the finish, I'll pull my drawers out just so I know where I'm kind of going with this. So let's kind of start now. This piece is on my really wobbly floor. I could have now moved up onto my stool. Now I've made it so much higher. Now there are all these engineering screws that Martin has to make these handles, because obviously now what I've done is I've made it so much taller, so the legs have to be really secure. So it has got these screws, but I'm not too concerned. I'm just going to paint over those for the moment. And if they become really visible, we'll do something about them. But I've got a funny feeling they'll probably just blend in. My brush is a little bit wet right now, so it's not giving me the best of coverages, but starting with a wet brush is probably quite good. So I'm just kind of like twirling it round into, making sure it's getting into all of the parts of wicker. Bless you, Martin. You've got the sneezes. Got the sneezels. So I'm going to try and sort of work in sections. Let's just kind of put some on here so you can see where I'm going with this. This is going to form the sort of basis of the where all the kind of decoupage goes, this sort of thing. Now with the wicker, I would suggest you probably do start with a damper brush. You're going to need it to kind of get into all of the parts. And that's got nice coverage. I'm going to now dip into the olive. Let's see what this does. See what kind of... Now, it's not a blendy around the drawersies. Does that make sense? It's a blendy where I want to put it blend. So I'm just going to bring this up and make it more... You can already see by adding the olive, it's made it much smokier. Let's put a little bit more around here. And this is just all in how you play with your paints. How this all ends up really is up to you. I mean, everybody loves a bit of blending. I'm going to try and make sure that this out here is a little bit more navy. Marty, you sound like you're getting a cold.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
A tiny little bit of hay fever.
He's got a tiny little bit of hay fever. I'm just passing that on to you. God bless him. I'm dipping in the I can never say it. Napoleonic blue. I mean, I keep going, it's like ice cream. I get it wrong. Neapolitan. That's what I keep wanting to say. I know it's not. So I've got it in this blue. I'm not even attempting to try and go there. Martin will put it on the screen for you. I'm going back in with my olive. The olive is the one that's making it look dusty and sort of dusky, and sort of it's the one that's doing that. But you could add, got a little bit of Florence on my brush now, so let's bring some of that up into there, and maybe some of that here, and maybe bring it, kind of make this much more that sort of colour. I've got the Amsterdam green now, and because I had the Florence on my brush, it's given us a different colour. What I'm going to kind of do the greens around here, but I'm going back into the olive again because I want to start bringing in my navy underneath here and up here. So you kind of get, I'm not telling you there's a way to do this. This is your journey. This is how you want to put your blend on. This is just the colours that I'm using. I want it all to be sort of quite almost mixing, running, so like from this colour to this colour to this colour, kind of running round it, as opposed to dark, lighter, light, you know, which is more your sort of kind of how you're going to traditionally put a blend on. This is the fun thing about blending. As you can see, I'm not cleaning my brush. That's not something I'm doing here. I'm just adding it and mixing it as I go, and I'm working off the colour that was on my brush previously. So because I know I've dipped in this, I'm going now to a different colour. I want to lighten this up here. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to make myself a blend that I'm kind of happy with. I think I might get away, if I'm clever and I don't miss any parts, with a kind of full coverage on one, but I might not. So I might be coming back and having to repeat this all over again in a minute. But right now where it sits, I'm quite happy with the way it's covering, but we'll see when I've got a light on it properly and I'm actually looking at it. Martin, you're a wee bit further away. Do you think its coverage is pretty good, or do you think it's going to need a little bit more than this?
Hard to say.
He doesn't want to commit. I'm going to be doing the legs the same, but I want to do all the legs maybe a little bit different. So maybe like pick this sort of colour for this one, and then maybe do the next one a sort of greeny colour. The legs had some, it was a coffee table, so it had another piece here, so we just sanded. Well, I didn't, Martin. Well, I'm using the Royal We, but it was actually Martin that did it for me. I don't know what I'd do without him. I think he's just, you know, I start off small and go, oh, I think it would have been nice with a little bit of height. I think I quite like the height on it. And then it goes from that to, oh, look at these. Could we put these on? To, it's a whole thing for him spending a couple hours crawling around the ground. It didn't take him a couple hours, but it, you know, I did have the slight guilt. No, I didn't really.
You didn't have any
I
guilt at
didn't
all.
have any guilt at all. I just wanted it done and quickly. Poor Marin. Right, okay, I'm going to get on and do this now. You've got the basics of what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm just trying to get it all into my wicker, using my circular motions. I think maybe as well, if you're finding your paint is getting a wee bit stubborn, wetting your brush again and starting. I'm not finding it at the moment, but that might be something that has to happen. Okay, I'll get on and do this. Okay, so I want to put this yellow, this mottled sort of yellow back into this background. The reason why is I've cut out the other floral one of these, and I've cut the peacock out. I've done it in sort of sections. It just made it a lot easier to cut out. And the flowers I've just got in sections as well. But I want to kind of get my positioning right, because this is where it can all go horribly wrong for furniture. I want to have this up against this edge here, but I've got to bear in mind where my handles are going to be. So I want it, you know, like it's not going over the handles. It's just to give me a rough idea where the yellow is going to go on this section. So I kind of roughly know where this is going to go. I don't want to eradicate all the blue that we've put all the time to take on by putting the yellow on. So just a kind of idea. And when we do this, we'll be cutting it and folding it to make it go along the sort of joins and things. So I've just got a little bit of the English yellow, which is this colour here. I think it's probably going to work the best. And I'm just going to roughly, I don't know, because it's wicker, the best way to actually do this. Yeah, just sort of a kind of like, I guess, and sort of, well, yeah, like this. I want some bits a bit heavier. I'm not sure whether its head's going to be behind there. Like trying to get it right into the wicker, and then some parts a little bit. And I don't want it everywhere, so again, I'm doing a wee bit heavier. I mean, we're working against many different things here. We've got wicker going on, we've got lots of like bits and folds and bits of drawers, but I think we're kind of something like that. Just you can't put it on once. It would look silly if you placed it on then tried to do this. You want it sitting behind it, so that when you stick it on, it's sitting behind it, as opposed to trying to get up to it and putting it on. Right, I'm going a bit crazy now just so that I can get on with this. Yeah, I think that'll do for a start. Let's see how that works out for us. I'm just going to quickly dry this. Might not play a couple of minutes of music. Okay, so I'm going to move the yellow to the side and move your brush as well, because you are going to need more of this. But I'm just want to work in small sections as I go. So let me just see if I've have I got that sort of where I was kind of like hoping for. Yeah, I think so. I can go, you're kind of a bit working in the dark here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I'm trying to think if I move this over a little bit more, will I like it? No, I think I quite liked it there better. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with, got more yellow to do there. Sorry, a couple of minutes of process here just while I work this out. So I'm going to fold it here because I want to cut it here. Now, this isn't going to be a simple process as it is with a smooth piece of furniture, putting this on, because what's going to happen when you put your Mod Podge on it is going to settle in it, and it's going to settle on it. but that's not going to help this all bed down into it. So I'm thinking probably it's probably wise to do something like, we'll put our glue on. We'll put our glue on, but then what we'll do is I'll wet the back of that brush is too thick. Martin, I'm sorry, you're on my brush. Can you just, sorry, Matty. Just let's kind of line it up again. Yeah, there and thereabouts. I think you're going to have to be quite generous with it as well. Really kind of like, oh, and obviously my brush was a little bit wet as well, so that's how that goes. Now what I want to do is I did have it here a minute ago. I have a water spray. This is quite a substantial water spray. This isn't your little delicate little mister. Sorry, I went and dropped it in the paint earlier. I think kind of doing something like this. Now what I want to do is this is quite a thick brush, like a heavy brush. It's not a little thin brush. It's got a little bit of heft, Martin. That's the word I'm looking for, heft. It's just to kind of push it into and manipulate it into where it's got to go. And I think this is probably the best way to deal with it. I think the wicker will give us a really good sort of effect with the peacock and kind of make it a little bit more sort of 3D-ish. Is there a word called 3D-ish? I don't know.
3D-ish. Yeah.
3D-ish. Do you know what? On this channel, I make my own words up.
I know.
Actually,
I have to do the subtitles.
Martin says he knows he has to do the subtitles. In fact, I guess in life, I'm a wee bit kind of like I make my own words up as well, Martin, don't I?
Oh, yes.
Right, so I'm not going to overwork this because it was wet and I don't want to start poking holes in it either. So I think I'm kind of really quite happy with this. I think it's been applied quite nicely. I'm not too bothered about this overworking the glue. I mean, I have overworked it quite considerably, but yeah, I think this is quite nice. I might actually have to go and put some of the thing I've told you that I didn't want to do. I'm probably going to have to do right. So I'm going to do here because I'm just going to blend this edge together. So I'm just going to cut my next part off. You get the sort of general, the gist. I'm always saying that you get the gist of what it is I'm trying to do here.
I get a t-shirt with that one.
Martin's going to make me a t-shirt with you get the gist. Somebody commented, what was it I say? It's just a suggestion. She said she really enjoyed. Who was it? It's somebody.
She said she sees people running lights and things.
Yeah, she was saying that she quite likes the word just a suggestion. Yeah, once you start going, I think the process will be quite reasonably quick. It's just about getting started, I guess, and making sure that firm is the word I've been trying to find since I started. Yeah, it's quite a firm brush. Right, that there. And then we're going to go down. I'm wondering whether I can make his neck just a little bit longer, expand it. I don't want him to end up looking a little bit silly.
No, that was all right.
Yeah.
From the side, it looks okay.
Don't want him to end up having a really long neck like a giraffe. So I'm going to do one more piece. But you see what I'm trying to do? I'm just I'm cutting it up into sections. I'm going to put all my florals. I'm a bit disappointed that the yellow, I mean, maybe once it's dried, it'll maybe look a little bit more what I'm looking for, but I might have to rethink how I get some of the yellow behind it, maybe water down paint, maybe flick it on might be a way to do it. Just make some kind of mask for this and flick it on at the end. I don't know. You know what creativity is like. You've got to kind of just like problem solve as you go.
Roll with it.
I'm just rolling with it. That's right, Martin. Is that about right? Yeah. And where's my pokey brush? So, I also say so a million times as well. I'm really sorry.
So, okay.
And okay. Okay and so are the two things that I say most of the time. When I'm actually teaching physical classes, I do exactly the same thing. I go, okay, so, right. I think the trick is with this is to really make sure that you manipulate it down into, it's kind of pulling my paint off a little bit there. I might have to do it. It's just because I'm adding water and glue and all sorts of things. So I think just the manipulation of it all is going to be the most important part, because you want it to be like it's like I'm not sure about these joiny parts. I might have to do a wee sort of blender around them and soften it up. I want it to look like it's not been stuck on there, but I think sometimes maybe you just have to run with what you can do. So that's that part. I'm going to get on and I'm going to stick this part down here. And then I'm going to work out maybe, and I'll come back when it's time for this, to work out where the sort of florals and things are going to go. I cut off this border here that's on the bottom of this paper. I am going to be coming back to this border at some point. I don't know where I'm going to be putting it. Who knows? But it's going to be a thing. It's going on. So I'll get on and do this now. Okay, so this is relatively dry because I went over to the house to get some lunch. So this is how it looks. I quite like where I've over rubbed it and it's kind of rubbed the pattern of the decoupage paper. I think that gives it another little sort of interesting bit. Don't mind this, where it hit over the top of that one. We can sort that out. I'm not liking the yellow and I am going to have to revisit it, but I'm going to put the decoupage paper on first so I know what I'm doing. So I'm just kind of still doing what I was doing before with exactly the same technique. Just kind of like cutting it and then doing so always cut from the back because you'll see your line. Keep those little sidey parts because we'll add those in. So again, it's just the same way I was showing you before. Make sure that you kind of almost whirly twirl it into the, or what am I trying to say? Make sure you get it into the grooves. I could sing there, but I'm not going to. I'm not a very good singer. In fact, I'm an absolutely appallingly bad singer. My friend Annette once said, "Do you know, Lel, you can do it. You can do everything. You can make everything, but just do me a favour, don't sing." I'm the person that starts singing at parties and everybody stops to look at me because I think I'm singing quite nicely, or quite tunefully, but no, it's not good, Martin, is it?
It's not. You're not your finest.
See, very tactfully said by Martin there. So as long as you're spraying it, because our paper's a little bit thicker and you're putting plenty of glue on it, I don't think there is any. I mean, I'm really quite happy with this. And I think any sort of edges, I'm going to go back round and Mod Podge around these edges and things, and then a good coat of sealer at the end, I think will make this good. Now, this was one of the, where was it? I think I'm just going to do something like this on this edge here. I'm conscious of the fact that you don't want to keep watching me do this, but it's just, I just want you to get the technique. If you do find something wicker and you are wanting to try this and it is made by Marley paper you're using, I mean, you could do this with tissue paper or a napkin and it would be probably more, maybe a wee bit simpler actually, but I'm not averse to the challenge. Just ripping that off there. I had the other bit of the pink flower, but it's vanished now. That's just typical. Anyway, I'm going to put this, I put the other part down here, and I'd already measured this to kind of, I only have so much of it, so it's just sort of pieces and parts that I've actually got. I'll do it again one more time, and then I'm going to go away. And what I'm going to try to do is finish off the front and just put some accents on the side. I'm conscious of the screw nails where the feet were, so I might have to do something a little bit camouflagey. Is camouflagey a word? All my words are wrong today. I don't know. now, and a good squish of water. And as I said, it's not a sort of fine mister I'm using, it's quite a squishy spray. Oh, pop it on. Get my roughy tufty brush because it's good for pushing it down into the grooves. Now, there we go. Just twirl it around. So you've got kind of idea of what's going to happen. I'm going to keep my flowers going up to this edge. I am going to fill out here because I stood back before and it needs something here with flowers, and probably maybe something here. That's all that's going to go here. So you're not going to miss that much more on the front. I'm going to stick some on the sides, and then we're going to come back and we're going to fix this yellow and make it right, because this is not pleasing me in any way, shape or form. So I have to go back to the drawing board on that one. Okie doke. Okay, so you can see where I've started to fix the yellow. All I'm doing is I'm running quite a watery yellow, but with quite a lot of paint, right up to the decoupage, or the peacock at least for now. And right now I've got one of the blue brushes that I used to make the initial blend, and all I'm doing is kind of catching it and just gently working it out, so it kind of makes a sort of, we're kind of blending it out so that the kind of yellows, I mean, I want a little bit, maybe a wee bit more sort of around here. I don't want to wipe it all the way. Just like this, kind of give them a wee bit of peacock, a wee bit of a highlight. I'm keeping the blues in here, so where I've run a lost there, I'm just leaving that. I've started to do some edges and corners with the same. So see, I wanted to put, I don't want to lose too much of the blue from underneath, so I'm going to stop in a minute, and all I'm doing is just working this so it's a kind of almost a blend. I've done the same here. I'm just kind of blending it out. I've got this bit here to fix. Unfortunately, where I'd put the yellow, I've had to try and do a bit of sort of a run and repair, but and this is going to be a wee bit awkward here, so I'm going to get a smaller brush. Let me just find a smaller brush. Here's one here. Just hang on a minute while I just dry this off, just so that I can kind of mix this without it. Let's put some paint on it. I just don't want to run it too much into here and lose that detail. But just to kind of like get rid of the yellow, it just didn't work for me. I think I'm going to put something around these edges here where the drawer is. This here doesn't matter right now, although I can kind of cover it up if I wanted to with some blue, if I wanted to. But I'm not gonna worry too much about. Oh, that was an error. Get some yellow. So I'm just going to blend that down in there. So what have I got to fix? Because I'm putting something around here, I don't need to worry about fixing here and here. But I have cut my decoupage paper a little bit short here, and I don't like it. So I'm just going to kind of take my paint, and I'll use the yellow for this. It's got a sort of, my brush has got a wee bit muddy now. It's got a bit of everything on it. So I'm just going to do this to just blend that away there so that I don't see that. These here we can get with a really fine grit sandpaper where I've glued two on top of one another. I don't like it when that happens. I'm setting a kind of scene for this because I'm going to come back with a toothbrush and I'm going to do some spatters on it, maybe this sort of pinky reddy colour just on here. So we're going to have to be kind of like, keep it kind of all in the same ballpark. But what you've seen here, I'm just going to go on and do some small parts, some little parts of decoupage paper on the sides. I don't think I'm going to do anything on the top. I'm going to leave the top as it is, but I'm going to kind of recreate this, what I've done on the side. I've just got a brush here and I've added, this is my sort of palette here. I've got some bentonite clay here just to kind of thicken it up, and all I'm doing, is trying to put a bit of detail in it with these sort of colours. So I've got like a light pink, a dark reddy pink, and a baby sort of pale pink. That's all. I'm not trying to do anything, you know, like I thought of stenciling it, but stenciling always on wicker ends up too muddy, and I just want the suggestion of a little bit of the same sort of colours that are pretty much in the flowers. Some parts you can do a little bit, because it's got the Benton ink clay in it, you can do a little bit thicker. But this is all I'm doing now. I'll take some of it out onto the blue as well and just kind of do this. I'm just kind of mingling it together now to kind of make the paper sort of sit back, as opposed to be glaringly obvious that it's been attached on. So I'm going to kind of change that to a more reddy colour now. So this is the sort of reddier. I mean, you can see the brush, the brush I'm using. Believe it or not, this brush is a really good brush. I refuse to let it die. So a bit more red there, something here maybe, a bit on here. Where else could I do some? I could do some here. And then maybe a dip in the light pink. And again, it's just sort of just tiny little parts, just here and there, nothing too much. Manage to hit your brush in the right way, you'll get both colours. So that is pretty much all I'm going to do on the front, just that part there with these colours. I mean, it doesn't need a whole lot. It's just kind of, you know, that way where if you kind of see what I just did there, if you kind of move your paint onto the decoupage paper, can you see already how that kind of sits things behind it? It makes it look less like it's been just attached onto it. So that's a kind of good way of kind of dealing with some of the decoupage. That's all I'm probably going to do. There's nothing more I'm going to add to this. So I'm just going to set up now, and we're going to see. I'm torn now. I'll just explain my tornness. I'm either going to gold leaf here, or I have some, I just happen to have it in here. I'll see if I can reach it from here. It was left over from my grand's rocking chair, and it didn't go back over to my craft stash. I think this would look pretty awesome running around here, but the only problem is it's quite stiff and this is quite bendy, so I don't really know how we're gonna, I still need to fix that part. And all I'm going to do there is get some really, really fine sandpaper just to kind of bed that back. But you can see my quandary. I think it would look really good. Yeah, fortune favours the bold. I'll put the heat gun on and we'll see if we can make this work. We might be able to. If not, we can just take it off and we can gold leaf it. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm just using my hot glue gun, and I'm just doing it in small sections, and I'm just pressing it as best I can and as tight as I can around this little lip. Any parts that I feel haven't quite got enough glue on, just going back and I'm just making sure that they're all glued down. There's no sort of, you know, I mean, it's not like I make a habit of gluing braid on furniture. I realised as well my error, because I haven't sealed this. So when I seal it, I'm going to have to be a wee bit careful, but I don't think it'll do any harm to. So just making sure that we get it all kind of relatively straight. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to do round this edge here. I've done here. And I've done this bottom part. I really think it makes a huge amount of difference. It looks lovely. So I've never thought of doing this before. It was just because it was happened to be sitting. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be good if I did that? So sometimes it's good not to put things away.
Yes, use what you got.
And if I'd put it over in the craft room, then I would probably never even have thought about it. So it was quite good. It's a little bit different to putting the sort of obligatory gold leaf on it as well, which sometimes can get a wee bit dull. So if you've got any braid or trimming, this is, and you've got something with a lip on it or drawers. I mean, not even if you haven't, you could probably just draw a square line, and I probably couldn't do that because I would never get it straight, but you could do this. I mean, maybe I'm going to be making trimming famous on furniture. Well, the trimming furniture artist who uses trimming, maybe not. I'm running with that, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get on and do that. Always remember, if you've got all these little strands where the glue gun is, just run a heat gun over them and they'll just get, no, they'll just vanish. Okay, so I'm just going to get on and do this. Okay, so I decided that I'd clear wax it just to bring out the details. I might do a little bit of wet distressing around these edges, not wet distressing. I might sand these edges back. I might not. I'm still undecided what I might do with these. But I thought probably the wax will get into the little particles of the wicker, and it means I can kind of run it around here, the braiding, just to seal it as well, and that way I can add a little bit of dark wax up to the edge of there as well if I so feel like it. It really brings out the blue. I always think waxing makes a different job to top coating it. Top coating brings out the colours, and it smells good, as Martin says. You got.
I wish there was smell-o-vision.
I wish there wasn't smell-o-vision. Not in our shed. It suffers from dampness sometimes, although not in this heat. I don't know. I think I've been trying to tell you this for quite a number of videos, but the weather we've been having in Scotland at the moment is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm just going to finish off kind of doing the dark wax, clear wax on here, so I can show you what I'm going to be doing with a little bit of the dark wax. So I'm just kind of running that right onto there as well. Just making sure that it's all being covered. I don't want to have any faux pas in it. It not be just in case I touch up against the dark wax. Now, dark wax, and this is Annie Sloan's dark wax. That was Annie Sloan's clear wax as well, the dark wax. I'm just going to give it a little bit of just, I think what I might do is I had a little bite. Do you know what? I've had a day of just putting things down and not finding them again. I brought it over. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put some dark wax around these edges, just to kind of give it a little bit of a shadow in here. Just darken it up. I'm going to run it along here as well. I wish I could find that little brush. That's really irritating me. There, haha. Martin, you were standing on it again. I always find it easier to get in. You can then move it out with your finger, but it's easier to get it into the where you want it to go. You don't want to overpower it, but I do want quite a significant shadow. I'm wanting a shadow around here. It's funny because it doesn't work the same way as wood does, where you can just, blend it out. It just sits in all the dark in the pieces of the wicker. I'm not quite sure if it's wicker or rattan. I mean, I'm sure somebody who's watching can tell me. I have trouble just identifying sheep and donkeys, so I mean, I don't really know how we're going to get on with. I was laughing the other day. Somebody was new at the channel and they were saying how much they enjoyed. I don't know if you've been watching my channel for a long time. I once did is it called the Queen of the Nile? It was the Queen of the Nile video, and I hadn't, I've been doing YouTube for a while, but you know how I've got problems seeing what things are, and there's a part in that video. This is probably going to make people go back and watch it just to see what an idiot I am, but I was trying to identify what these things were on the bottom of the inlay, and I said to Martin, we'll just put that beside the cabbages. And then I looked at it and I started to laugh because it wasn't cabbages, it was peony roses, but in my mind it looked like cabbages. I'm also going to go down and around here, and I don't mind if it touches up against my trim. That's okay. And maybe some round here, but you get, I'm not going to say you get the gist, but you do understand what I'm trying to do here. So I'm just darkening it all off. I might even run some of it round here just to kind of give it a sort of, especially where I've joined the trim, I'd quite like to have a part where it looks a little bit kind of there and here, just a bit of something, just a bit of camouflage, shall we say. So I'm going to get on and I'm going to darken this all up, and I'm going to look at it again with fresh eyes, because sometimes when I'm on camera, I'm kind of just rushing through it, and I like to have a little bit of more of a play when I'm off camera. So I'm going to do this, clear wax the rest of it, and jewellery. Where's the jewellery? I have the most, Martin found me these in my drawer. Look at these. And I'm not going to clean them. I'm not going to burnish them. I'm not going to gold leaf them. I'm not going to do anything. They just, because of his beak, and I don't want to cover it, we're going to have to maybe do something like a bit lower here or higher, but then I'm kind of covering it. I don't know. The position is going to be a little bit tricksy. And this is the other one. But how nice are these? And this kind of, should it be on that piece of furniture? I always think that if you've got a different or unusual piece of furniture, or sometimes even a cheaper piece of furniture, I don't think this was actually cheap, not the way it's been made. But if you've got a kind of, I like to do that sort of, you wouldn't imagine it on it, but it works so well with my handles. So I think sometimes it's good to put vintage on, a bit of something different. Okay, so I'll go on and do this. So we're finished. Was wicker difficult? No, it wasn't. Second layer of paint, I would put a tiny, just a little bit. I wouldn't spray your furniture, definitely not. But have a sort of quite a damp brush so you can get into all the sort of nooks and crannies of the wicker. Was it difficult to decoupage? No, it wasn't. Just make sure that you water down from the back quite considerably your decoupage paper before you put your Mod Podge onto your surface and apply it, just so that it's got a chance. And you saw me using quite a stiff brush just to kind of push it down into the wicker to make sure it's all adhered. Nothing difficult there. Braiding, yeah, you can use whatever you want. Well, you could say, is this going to be cleanable? Is this going to be durable? But it's been waxed, which means it should be wipeable, and it'll certainly be dustable. I don't know how you feel, but I don't go around, kind of washing my furniture a huge heap. I kind of, not that I'm dirty, but I mean, I just kind of wipe it with a cloth. I don't, I'm not soaking it and scrubbing it. Will it be durable? I reckon so. I don't see why not. It's been sealed with clear wax, so should be fine. The furniture jewellery, you can see it hasn't got the lovely handles on it. This piece of furniture is, I'm not going to open the drawer again, I did this in the last take, it's about this thick. And any vintage handles aren't going to go through with that. It's got the first piece, which has got the wicker attached to it, and then it's got the back of the actual door. So combined, it's about this thick. So no vintage handles were going to fit through there. So I had to get ones that could screw from the front. So I went with these, and I think they're okay. And what I did was, I thought I can do whatever I like. That's the good thing. And to be honest with you, my furniture sells because it's a little bit out there. I mean, just does. So I've done my handles sort of a diagonal fashion.
It works.
Martin was quite chuffed. He was behind it. He wasn't going, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure about this. No, he was like, yes, do. So it's all been waxed. One cautionary note, which I have found on this, if you're going to do this, make sure your paint has had an overnight cure. Don't try and cheat it, put your furniture out in the sun and go back and wax it, because there are some parts on the top that when I really vigorously waxed, I could slightly see my wax brush taking off some of the paint. I'm just running with it. I don't think it looks that bad, but if this had been something else and it was on the front and it was more of a, I think I would have been a little bit distraught about that. But just make sure your paint's really cured, because you don't want the lift of that to happen. Apart from that, it wasn't really that difficult. We added some legs to give it a little bit of height, and I'm glad we did, because I think it has more presence with some legs. Sometimes height can give something that is very boring a whole new look, and I quite like adding legs to things if it's something that maybe looks a little bit like it shouldn't have had them in the first place. Okay, so if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it. consider sharing it with somebody who maybe wants to paint wicker. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave me a lovely comment. And I will see you again another day. Martin, say goodbye.
What day will we see them?
Oh, I'll see you on Sunday. See, I was doing so well. See you next Sunday. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.